I'm Bruce Carty. I'm the Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost, and I guess the introducer of the session today. There are a whole series of speakers, all involved in the Connect Carolina project. They're listed here. I'll be followed by Larry Conrad, who is the Vice Chancellor for Information Technology and the Chief Information Officer at the university. And then we'll have Jerry Bland, the Executive Director for Enterprise Applications, the go-to person for Connect Carolina. We'll have a session with Carol Gray, our Vice Chancellor for Finance and Chief Financial Officer. Newly arrived Tar Heel, properly dressed in Carolina blue. Kevin Seitz, the Associate Vice Chancellor of Finance, will speak. Don Hepp, the Senior Director for Finance and Human Relations Applications. And then Robert Vickery, who I think has run off briefly, no doubt to do something useful on the project. Robert is a subject matter, right on cue. Subject matter expert for accounting services. So, oddly enough, the title of my talk may seem a little out of order because I'm here today to talk about phase 2 of Connect Carolina. Some of you may wonder about, well, where was phase 1 and how did it go? What did we learn from that? Well, fundamentally, most of phase 1 is complete. The Campus Solutions has been live for almost 2 years. I have been in the Provost's office for 2.5 years, and I can tell you that from firsthand experience, the birthing process for phase 1 has had complications. Some parts have worked, I think, exceedingly well right off the bat. Scholarships and student aid is probably the poster child for what things can go right and what efficiencies can be realized immediately. And that took a lot of effort on the part of Larry and his crew, the project team, the people in scholarships and student aid, staff contributions, and a lot of quick analyses of the problems that existed and what primary solutions, what were the key things that had to get done and getting them done. I think basically one of the reasons we've managed to come so far with what has been touted by others as the most difficult part of a PeopleSoft implementation, that is the Campus Solutions part, is that PeopleSoft is not as well designed for that as it is for finance and HR. The reason we've gotten where we are now is because IT people and the functional people, the users, have increasingly worked well together, and that is absolutely essential. We have to identify what problems we have to prioritize them, and we have to enable them as best as we can. Sometimes we find PeopleSoft simply cannot do the job at all, and we have turned to other solutions. Graduate admissions was probably one of our biggest headaches. PeopleSoft, we thought we could make work. We were wrong. We found an alternative solution in something called Apply Yourself, and now that process seems to be working extremely well. Improvements are continuing to be made. In phase 1, faculty members can now print class rosters with photos. That may not sound like very much, but I was surprised at how many faculty really wanted that kind of information. I never had it when I was lecturing, but I couldn't see very well anyway, so. Academic early warnings are now communicated through Connect Carolina, and that is really essential. As you all know, we try to graduate our students in 4 years, and we try to have a very high graduation rate and a high retention rate. And students who have trouble are one of the biggest concerns we have, and being able to identify them early is critical in our success. So kudos to everybody for getting that to work. Transcripts available online. I have been working with the registrar's office pretty carefully on all of this, and there have been some interesting challenges in that problem too. We still have to work on the data warehouse. Now, when I say about people getting engaged in this project and identifying the problems, it's not just everybody in this room or everybody who's not in this room for that matter, but it means people at the highest levels. Everybody, top to bottom, if I could be so bold as to make a comment like that. The student stakeholders group was very involved in all of this, of course, but I had to be involved too. Every one of the sponsors of the Connect Carolina project, which include myself, Carol Gray, and Brenda Malone, are deeply involved in the success of this project and understanding the problems and trying to solve the problems. So I ask of you what we have asked of ourselves: get involved and stay involved. Okay, so phase 2 is now about to begin. The team is in place. We've got ITS staff, staff from central offices, staff from campus, 200 people, is that right, Larry? Okay, ballpark. I'm an astronomer. We don't deal in precision very often. 200 sounds good to me. We understand, or at least the key players understand the business processes, and everybody within the enterprise's applications and finance and HR offices will do what we have to do. The key step, as probably most of you know, is the fit gap analysis, finding where PeopleSoft will fit with our requirements and where there's a gap where it won't, and what we have to do to reconcile the two. That involves not just identifying the gaps, but prioritizing them. Maybe at the outset we won't be able to do everything, or we won't be able to enable them in the order instantaneously that we would like. We'll have to do things as best as we can. The project looks to be over budget, and so we will be giving careful scrutiny to everything that we have to do. So we have FitGap done for the finance portion. The HR one is scheduled for April 10th. And what I can say is that we're far enough along to begin making some decisions about other go-live dates. We have agreed, the steering committee has agreed basically, that the finance go-live date will be first, and then HR and payroll will follow subsequently by a few months. For finance, we've set a go-live date of July 1st next summer. Now, that may sound like a long time to some of you, but as I think back to where we were 15 months ago and going live, there's not much time. We've got a lot to do. But on the other hand, we also have a lot of experience and I think a lot of people ready to go. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Larry Conrad for his report. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And again, I'm Larry Conrad, Vice Chancellor for IT and CIO here at the university. And I'm going to go over this pretty quickly, but we thought it would be worthwhile to spend just a few minutes sort of on the background. How did we get here? And in particular, since this, as you'll see, it started somewhere around circa 2004, 2005. Been a lot of changes since then, not the least of which is all the sponsors have changed out. The project leadership has all changed out. So I mean, there's been a lot of activity, as there will be over that kind of a time frame. At any rate, so 2004, what happened was the university had to face a tough reality. The student system we'd been running for many years, we were told by the vendor was or they were no longer going to support it. It was basically, it was outmoded, it was a legacy system, and that we needed to start looking for alternatives. And where's my, okay, here we go. So,
you want the next slide?
Yeah, sure, let's go to the next slide, thanks. All right, so the background on that is there was a group of people here who started to look at the difficult and very significant challenge of how do you replace that. And we also, they also started looking at, well, what are the age of the other legacy systems that the university depends on? You can see the dates here that, you know, the financial system was 24 years old. HRIS is 12, payroll 44. That says something about the longevity and I guess the success of that system. But 44 years, I can tell you, I've been in this business my entire professional life, and you know, finding a system that survived for 44 years is pretty exceptional. And then the department accounting system, 15. So we, aging systems have a set of problems with them, not the least of which is they create risk. There's financial and regulatory compliance issues. As time goes by, you have different people working. Imagine the payroll system. We're not, you know, 44 years, you're going to have more than a couple of people work on that, right? And every person that comes along brings a slightly different approach to it. So as time passes, these systems get increasingly complex and expensive to maintain because they're more difficult to understand when you've had so many hands touching it over the years. And it gets difficult to implement new functionality. Complexity requires that extra effort to make those changes. You're working with sort of older and out-of-date technology. It doesn't have, COBOL. When COBOL was invented, the web wasn't around, so that was not incorporated as far as the fundamental design capability. So increasingly difficult to find people with the skills needed to support these things. The problems of having all these siloed systems, because all these systems were implemented completely separately, independently from one another, without really thought about how the systems interacted. So then you have the problems of how do you consolidate information between those various systems. And you have information in multiple places, so when somebody tries to think holistically about the university, it can be difficult to pull the pieces. Well, first it can be difficult to find the information, let alone be able to pull it together. So, 2005, the university began considering what's euphemistically known as an ERP solution, Enterprise Resource Planning Solution. I think this is a classic case where the acronym has stuck and the name maybe doesn't mean that much anymore. But the ERP solution is a possible approach. And the attraction about ERP is that it's, well, first of all, you're not, it's a buy versus build decision. So you're buying something that somebody else, some vendor community with hopefully deep pockets is maintaining over time. You'll get an integrated set of functionality so that if they've done their job right, they'll take all those different siloed components that existed in the past and they'll think holistically about, well, how do the pieces fit together? And if you have, just pick something, if you've got an employee in the HR system, that employee is also over in the financial system, or in the case of the student system, you have crossover there as well. So now, there were other questions to sort through. Who's going to lead this? There's a lot of different players. I mean, really, when you look at everybody touched on campus by these fundamental systems, it's hundreds of people. So how do you organize the thing? How do you lead it? How do you pay for it? These things are very expensive. They're large, complex, they're difficult, they're long-term. As I said, we started in 2004, 2005. It's now 2012. We're still going on. So how do you sort all that out? And of course, higher ed loves to benchmark. So what solutions have other universities like Carolina implemented, and why did they make those choices? So in 2006, a RFP was issued, and ultimately 3 vendors responded. And there were, again, these are out of the history books here, but 200 attendees and 16 process-specific teams evaluated those vendors' demos. PeopleSoft was chosen as the clear and really only reasonable vendor for the student system. And in 2008, the university also chose PeopleSoft for HR, payroll, and finance as well, with the understanding we wanted, when we started this thing, we clearly wanted to get the student system implemented before we got cranked up on HR, payroll, and finance. Because again, one of these things at a time, particularly the student system, is a major challenge, as the provost has noted. So the goal is to give the university a fully integrated administrative system. Is that? Okay, so the last thing I would say before I turn it over to Jerry Bland is, as the provost noted, when these things are large, they're difficult, lots of people involved. As my staff knows, one of my favorite phrases is, this is surgery with a meat cleaver. So, and there's no question, this is surgery. This is major surgery for the university. Fundamental changes in these key systems that people depend on and work with every single day. We've got people, dedicated, hardworking people who are doing their darndest to design this thing and implement it in a way that's going to be of greatest value for the institution. Everything will not be perfect on day one. So the one thing I guess I would leave you with is, as we go about this process and through the finalization and implementation, please keep talking to us. We need to hear from you. We need your feedback, and be patient. We will sort out the problems as quickly as we can identify. Thank you.
All right, so now I guess I can give myself the title of Chief Surgeon. Can I get the salary of a chief surgeon? I guess that answer is no. I want to talk a little bit about the Connect Carolina universe. Connect Carolina is a group of projects Sometimes those projects feels like there's 100 of them, but there's actually only 6 that are actually PeopleSoft applications. We also have a number of projects that are surrounding the PeopleSoft applications like Starlight, things like the travel system that we will be working with, but in essence it is 6 projects. And these are the 6 projects. I want to talk a little bit about the next slide. I had somebody pull me off a meeting last year at Campus Solutions and ask me, why does this take so long? She says, it's just a website. Why does it take you so long to get it fixed? And I said, well, it's not really just a website. You know, some mornings I get up on Friday morning and look at the kvetching board and somebody says, fix this website. This website is a problem. There are a lot of rules and information built into PeopleSoft. When we take it out of the box, PeopleSoft has decided for us how we will do business. They've decided how we will pay a vendor. They've decided how many bank accounts we will have. They've decided how students will register for class. And we have to decide whether or not we want to use those rules or whether we want to change them. That is what takes so much time. If we decide to change it, then we have to figure out how do we test it, how do we make sure that something downstream doesn't break once we make a change. That's where the time and attention is going to be for the next 2 years for finance and for HR. Just run through quickly what the projects are doing right now. Campus Solutions, again, is in production. We are continuing to make improvements to that system. Not only are we hoping to make improvements for the end users and what campus is experiencing, but we're also making sure that we are making it easier to maintain for ITS. So it is tough to maintain right now, and we are trying to make as many changes as we can to make it easier as we get new fixes and new updates from PeopleSoft, that we're quicker and quicker in getting that into the system and offering more functionality for campus. Finance and HR. Finance is why we're here today. Go live date, July 1, 2013. A lot to do between now and then. The 2 projects, HR and Finance, are moving together. And I think that's important that we are doing them together. Decisions that are made in Finance impact HR. Decisions made in HR impact Finance. They also impact, the 2 of those impact Campus Solutions. So it's good that these 2 projects are going together. We did make a strategic decision that they were not going to go live together. So there will be a break between when Finance goes live and when HR goes live. Data warehouse. This is one of the funnest projects I think I'm working with right now. We are working to figure out how we can make sure people have access to data. We are behind the 8 ball on Campus Solutions on getting people access to data. We are hoping with HR and Finance that the data warehouse project will move in partnership with the project so that as soon as Finance goes live, we will have a data warehouse and data will be available for people to report on. We are actively working the Campus Solutions part of that right now. We hope we have our first go live in April with student records. And then for the rest of the year, moving into 2013, we will release the rest of the data warehouse. So there's going to be a lot of activity going on with getting access to data, making sure that we understand what the business requirements are, that we understand what the business rules are, so that we are getting the right information into the warehouse and allowing people to have access to that. We will also have a new reporting tool. Some of you may be working with SAS or you're working with WebFocus. We are planning to implement OBIEE, which is Oracle Business Intelligence Enterprise Edition. That is the tool that PeopleSoft recommends works with their application. So we will be implementing that in conjunction with our warehouse. So hopefully beginning in April, we will have some users using OBIEE and preparing to use that reporting. And hopefully we will have users using OBIEE starting in April. And those users who will be accessing student records data will get training to use that tool. Just as when Finance goes live, training will be available as well. Data prep. Of course, with any system, data is dependent upon how clean the data is going in. We're going to make a concerted effort that as the projects move forward, that we're looking at our legacy data and making sure that once we convert it into PeopleSoft, that it is clean. You know, that everybody has a department number, everybody has a position number, all of our accounts are clean and ready to be converted. So there will be a lot of activity over the next 18 months to look at our data and confirm that what we are converting is accurate. And we also will be working on a data dictionary, and I know that's very important. With PeopleSoft, we are changing some definitions of how the university functions. So we will be making sure, hopefully, that we have some mechanism that if we're changing how an FTE is defined, that we have that definition laid out so that you understand how an FTE is now calculated. So please look forward to that as well. And finally, our portal. We are implementing PeopleSoft Portal. This portal is not replacing MyUNC, but it will be a single location that we will offer access to our business applications on campus. So if you have access to PeopleSoft, you will have a single place to go and access all of your PeopleSoft applications. We will also think about links to other applications, Blackboard, Sakai, those types of things, so people who are actively working in PeopleSoft can come to one location to access all of their business applications. And now I will introduce our new Chief Financial Officer, Carol Kane Gray.
We have to do a switch.
Yes.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is literally my third month on the job, and I'm very impressed with the turnout. So maybe if you would like to help me, how many in the audience has had any involvement with the PeopleSoft implementation on the student side, finance side, human resource, or payroll? Okay, so you probably know more than I do. So my topic is a fundamental change on how we do business. So just to begin with a little history, the finance division, run by Kevin Seitz, is the only functional unit that's been involved with all three phases of the PeopleSoft implementation. They were actively involved in the student accounts area with phase 1. They will be very involved in the phase 2 implementation of finance. And of course, the payroll department will be an integral part of the human resource payroll implementation, which hopefully will be completed soon after we go live with the finance implementation. I'm putting pressure on Jerry. Can everybody hear me back there? Okay. As you have heard from Larry and Bruce, we've been live with the student systems for 2 years, and we have also implemented the e-procurement version of 8.9 last year. And if any of you are using these systems, I hope that you have seen that it does change the way you conduct business. And one change in the procurement area is that we're able to now get information on how we spend our procurement dollars so that we can better negotiate contracts and commodities for the university. Finance does understand the challenges we face with all three implementations, and just as importantly, the role of communication and collaboration as we move forward with this fundamental change with PeopleSoft will bring to you. So we're very committed to making sure that as we go through the finance implementation, that you will all be informed in various ways so that you stay in touch with what's going on. As you've already heard, I'm trying not to be redundant, but PeopleSoft will provide a stable platform for future growth. The university's investment in this project certainly marks its recognition of the need to replace FRS, which you heard is a 24-year-old, very fragile system. The PeopleSoft implementation represents the culmination of a detailed plan and a review of current business practices and fit gap analysis, which you've heard Larry speak of. The new system will offer a more improved technical and business process that will integrate human resources, finance, and student systems. Any implementation is trying, but I believe that this improved financial system will benefit the entire university. So I will let you know that in my previous position at Stony Brook University, I was very involved with the implementation of the PeopleSoft system for all three components: finance, HR, and administration. And it really did require a team approach with everyone on the campus, functional, departments, and the IT staff, with collaboration and an effort to get it done. It affords great opportunities to improve business practices and provide better data to departments for reporting purposes. It really is an opportunity to clean up data, organize account structures, and define data that's consistent throughout the campus. As difficult as the implementation was, it required a lot of training, a lot of dedicated time and commitment. As I said earlier, it was a rewarding experience, and it did make a fundamental change for those that were working at Stony Brook. So I want to make a commitment to all of you that decisions have not and will not be made in a silo. We're committed to involving the campus users and to sharing frequent updates with all of you. There will be a transition period, and we will continue to work with ITS, the campus offices, during the after go-live date of July 1st, 2013. The Finance Division is very much aware that we will be reacting to issues and problems and complaints, and we're going to try to address those issues on a very timely basis. So over time, I believe the system will improve the way we conduct business, and the new features that we will bring as we upgrade will create efficiencies throughout the university. So getting back to the topic, installing PeopleSoft will give us an opportunity to rethink how we do business and certainly to rethink how we do workflow. For example, at the beginning of this project, many of you have been involved with the definition and defining of chart fields. It gives you an opportunity to rework the chart of accounts. It will help you with your accounting needs. It will provide you with organizational roll-ups and reporting needs that you certainly have not been able to get in the past. I know that there's a group of representatives from campuses and central offices, along with senior finance leadership, that have been working together to determine the new chart field structure. And it really is important to get the data definition, the chart fields, and the organizational structures done right at the onset, because then it requires more cleanup during the implementation process. I'm going to let Robert, who will be talking more about this change towards the end of the presentation. One more fundamental change that I can speak of is that PeopleSoft is an integrated system. That means that instead of separate, disparate systems, you will have one system that is on one platform: human resources, finance, and campus solutions. You'll be working off the same platform and share the same data relationships. So better reporting through standardized data, better definitions, and for those out there that have multiple duties that deal with HR issues, reporting issues, and people issues, you will find it easier to collect the information for reporting purposes. So again, the initial go-live date, July 1st, 2013, is just the starting point. It will give us a stable platform that we can grow from, and once we get past the initial implementation and work out the issues that will require change, we will be able to easily implement the new features and the upgrades. So before I conclude my brief presentation, I would like to personally thank all of you who have participated on this project. And I know that the staff, the IT staff, the finance staff, the project staff, the departmental people who have been involved with this, and stakeholders. I personally want to thank you because I know how difficult this implementation is, but I know at the end you're going to feel really good about it. So thank you very much, and I would like to now introduce Kevin Seitz to continue on with his presentation.
There are a lot of people here. We've been talking now for about a half an hour, a little over a half an hour. So why don't all of you stand up just for a second? Stretch a little bit. Don't sit down now, just stand up. Okay, I didn't say anything about talking. Now stay standing. Everyone that has worked on the PeopleSoft implementation, either on the student side, the finance side, or the HR side and payroll side, everybody that's worked on it already, I want you to sit down. Okay, now for the rest of you, I just want you to know you have 487 days to catch up. You can be seated. Thank you. In the central business offices, we have really felt that we've gone out of our way to assist ITS in getting this project done. If you realize the fact that today is the 29th, we even gave them an extra day to work on the project. So there'll be no reason why we don't have this project done on time. If you haven't picked up this message yet in the presentations that have been done so far, I have really a way to take my 5 or 6 slides and give it to you in 3 little messages. Number 1, change is definitely coming. There's no question about it. There is change coming. Everyone needs to prepare because it will be here 487 days from now. And I encourage you all to get very involved. And you'll see that as, I'll say a little bit more about that as I go through the presentation. But I've heard that in all the speakers' comments. These are important things for you to be doing and not be thinking that somehow you're going to be left out. I was involved in a project at East Carolina University. We put in Banner, and we had people saying, well, I don't really have to go to Banner training because I'm not going to use Banner, I'm going to use the old system. We knew we had a little communication problem right there. As I said, there are going to be significant changes. FRS is going away. In-depth is going away. And a number of the systems that you've used over the years are going to be gone. They're not going to be there anymore. E-procurement is changing from, which is already in PeopleSoft, is changing from version 8.9 to 9.1. But some of the legacy systems will stay on for a little while anyway. Web travel and the money market system, other systems like that, they will be here for a while. But again, as we get past implementation, all the old systems eventually will go away. We're also doing something called implementing this project in a vanilla way. It depends on who you talk to, how you describe vanilla, but when you talk to the sponsors, the vice chancellors, it's keep it just the way it is, don't change it, because the cost goes up every time you make a modification to the system as it's presented. So we really want to be very careful to produce this or implement the system just the way that it is as close to the way PeopleSoft has designed it as possible. Our consultants remind us often when we're thinking about how we might need to make a change to the basic software, they remind us often that there might be another way to do it that's going to be a little bit cheaper. And usually that's business process redesign. And so you're also going to experience a lot of changes in the business processes. Those will change also. But as Carol said, you're going to get more. You're going to get more of a lot of things. You will definitely get a more complex system. The ERP is a very complex system, but it also has greater opportunities for everyone that uses it. It's interesting on the integration side. While you don't necessarily connect the dots in this way, I was at a meeting of the Campus Solution folks that were looking at some of the things that they need to work on and make changes to the system. And Bobby Owen was talking about Department ID. Now, Department ID, if you haven't been involved with the project yet, is a little part of the chart field string that wasn't really important, didn't take us a lot of time to get set. That's the project team, you can tell. But she was saying how Department ID had been helping her over on the academic side of the house straighten out a number of academic programs and where they were and who had them. And so that integration, even without the finance system being put in right now, that integration already can be felt. You'll see that data gathering will be more robust. Departments are going to have more direct responsibility for and authority over their transactions. They'll be more responsible for budget management, and there's going to be a lot more information available out of the system. As Jerry talked about the data warehouse, there's going to be a lot of opportunities with that in OBIEE to be able to get the system out, or get information out of the system. And you can see in these the points in these slides, there's a number of different aspects of how the data warehouse will actually make it easier for people to do reporting. But as we've said, and a number of people have said, the real success in this project really depends on everyone in the room and many people that aren't in the room today. You have to get involved. The only way that you're going to know what's going on and be prepared is that you have to get involved. Right now, there are working groups all over the institution that are working on the implementation. If you haven't heard about anything in your area, I would suggest very strongly that you go and talk to the folks that would be involved in the project and see how you can get involved. We're going to have a lot of opportunities, obviously, in the future for training, to get involved in training. There's communication that's going on right now. There's working groups that are meeting, and so there's a lot of effort that's going on that you can be part of. You just need to be able to make sure that you avail yourself of those opportunities. Now, one thing that is not available, there is no early retirement program that's available for people who don't want to work on the system. So make sure that you do get involved. One of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that there's a lot of communication, a lot of places where you can get information. Today, as you leave the presentation, you're going to be given a handout. You would have been given it sooner, but we know how this works. If you give out a handout at the beginning of a presentation, sometimes minds start to wander. So we're going to be giving you this as you leave today, and it's part of the information involving the presentation that Robert's going to be doing in a little bit. But it's documents like this that are going to be available, and other opportunities that you're going to have to come to meetings like this that will help you be prepared for what's coming. So I'm now going to turn the program over to Don Hepp. Don is the person who didn't feel that implementing finance was going to be enough for him. So after he got done with Campus Solutions, he said, look, I'll volunteer. I'll do finance and HR because I really want the challenge. So here's Don.
I was tricked. There's just no two ways about it. I didn't know what I signed up for. This is day 366 in my role, so I was really tricked. Even one extra day in this year. So we can go ahead to the next slide. So, this project can be, really grossly oversimplified. It's got 5 phases. One's done, so we're happy about that. Requirements, with a lot of your help. The second one and third one are going on right now. That's the other nuance of a large project like this, is you do a lot of things at the same time, hopefully well. So we're in design, we're deciding how things will actually work in the new systems, and we're also starting development. If we don't do that at the same time, it'll be years before we go live. So that's part of the challenge of this project, is managing a lot of complex things all together. One thing on this chart that I want to make sure you understand is, see those words fit/gap? So that's what we do in the early part of the project. We just finished that, is we look at all the requirements and determine what fits into PeopleSoft kind of nicely, neatly, and what doesn't. That's a gap. So we'll talk a little bit later about what we do about that, but that's kind of a key concept that some of you may not have heard before. And we can go forward. Yeah. So, I just alluded to fits and gaps. So what fit means is, like I said, it can just be, we can accept that, PeopleSoft can do it. We set up the system to do it, no problem. We like those. Gaps, not so much. So A gap takes a gap we need to look at, it takes time. We consult the business owners, the consultants, some of which are here, help the business owners understand what the software can and can't do, and we make decisions on how we're going to meet that gap. We generally have 3 ways we can approach it. One is we make a process change. That's our preferred route, and we've been successful in doing a lot of that. The other solutions are we can either enhance PeopleSoft or we modify it. And so there's a slight nuance of why one's different from the other. An enhancement is we're basically adding functionality on top of PeopleSoft. It kind of sits on top. And modifications are actually changing what PeopleSoft gave us. That's a little messier. So we try to avoid that at the last result. Okay, so I think we alluded to earlier, we have a go live date now. We finished this fit gap phase effective February 1st, and we've been very, very successful in keeping these modifications to a minimum. I think we have a number in roughly the low 20s, which is excellent on a project of this size. So we've had really good help from the business sponsors, from those of you on our extended project team, helping us accommodate things that PeopleSoft can't do perfectly into a new business process. So I think that sets us up well for future success, because Kevin alluded to the fact that when we change PeopleSoft, it costs us money. It costs me money now, and it keeps costing me money every single time PeopleSoft gives us a new version of their software. And they do that 4 times a year, even though it can be minor. And then someday, hopefully after I'm retired, we will do an upgrade. And that can really get messy with more modifications, and I'm pretty sure I won't be retired. That's overly optimistic, especially since I don't play the lottery. So some other things to mention here. What are we doing now? What are we looking forward to? So we're configuring most of the software, so that's all those fits are going to be configured by the end of March, roughly. We'll have some outliers that we need final answers to, but for the most part, the functional team, UNC, and consultants will do that by the end of March. We are already developing some of these 20-plus modifications that were approved by our sponsors on the 1st of February. They won't all be done by the end of March, but some will be done and others will be well underway. We are finalizing our approach to critical areas that always lag in a project like this, but are really important for you all, such as reporting, workflow, and security. Security, what does a certain role see in the system? What can you and can't you do? We need to start making some of those decisions and do that analysis. And then one thing that you'll all, I think it ties very well to the handout Kevin mentioned, is we're completing the data mapping from FRS to the new chart field structure by the end of April. And a lot of you folks are involved in that and will be key to our success. And maybe in future discussions we can get into more detail, but that's a real key activity for us to be able to go live and to be able to test. It's a big enabler for us pre-go live, and it's a must for go live. Move on. Okay, 2 upcoming project milestones. These are those big phases, right? The second and third ones. So, and these are approximate. I'm not going to lie to you and say I'm betting my life that the exact date is September 30th. It's an approximate thing, but design being complete, well, what does that mean? That means that all these modifications we talked about are enhancements or conversions or interfaces to our other systems. And even the configuration, that's all going to be designed. We know exactly how that's going to be done in the new system. We've got it to a point where if it needs development, our developers have it in their hands. They know what they have to code. So that's important. If we don't get all that done, we don't leave enough time for the development and all the testing. And so the next phase will be done shortly thereafter, because we're all working on a lot of this in parallel, mind you. Development means all the development's done, and it's done and been tested by the people who wrote the code. So if I'm the programmer, I've developed it, I've tested my own code, it looks great. That's kind of the end of that phase. Then it goes into testing, and some of you all, maybe all of you all eventually, will start to see it and test it before we're live. But these are the first critical building block phases. What are we going to do? Specify it in great detail, and then do it, initially test it, throw it over the wall so that non-IT people get their hands on it and make sure it meets your requirements. Okay, so how are we working with you? I think this is the stuff that may be of most interest and has been, I think, most critical to our success to date. We've had dedicated subject matter expert, SMEs, as we like to call them, from central office and campus facing, and we've had business analysts creatively called BAs. Some days they wear different hats, but they're all really critical to our success. You may have met some of them already. There's many here. Some of the people that some of you could have met most recently when we talk about chart fields and how we're going to use them. Robert Vickery, who you will talk later. Mark Cozell, Wendy Rowley, among others. We have a good team, and these are critical roles for us. So what's a SME versus a BA? Subject matter expert is someone who can tell us how things work at UNC. How do we process payroll at UNC? What are the steps? There's a reason I brought a water bottle to this. What are the steps involved? So on. It's more business knowledge that we can take in and use so we do the right things. A business analyst often has some of that knowledge, but we want them kind of inside, setting up the system, understanding how the system actually works, so that when we kick all the consultants out, they can run the system for us. And that's really important for HR and finance, because these systems are designed to be run for you all as my customer, not for IT to sit down every day and update tables and put down the levers. So we want these folks involved soon. They've done a great job to this point. I don't want to get their egos too high, because I might need something tonight, but so far so good. So another area too that I think I've seen some of these faces before in the audience we have these monthly finance working group meetings. I think we've done 3 now. We have a 4th one on March 14th, if I recall correctly. And these are our way of taking that 100 people or so, and they're part of our project team. I call it an extended project team, but they're critical to our success. I mean, these are the early adopters. These are the people that'll help us flush out any problems or issues, and hopefully be a little bit of evangelizing what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it, so that others will kind of buy into the change. When Kevin says it's coming, we want to soften it, we want to help, but it has to be embraced to some degree. So we're hoping these work group members who have volunteered their time or been voluntold to help will perform that role for us. And so far, I think they've been doing exactly what we need them to do. So, and you can see some of the things that we asked them to do on the list here. Guide the team in making decisions. They did assist us in finalizing the requirements already. The big thing right now is that second to last one. Continue to work to inform their schools, units, groups, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how it impacts them. Because someone in one of those schools may say, excuse me, that's not going to work. Did you think of this? And if that comes back to me now versus this year or next year at this time, it's a much different conversation. So we welcome that feedback. We can go on. Okay, so how do we communicate and how do we outreach to you? We have dedicated people, both in finance and HR and in ITS, that do nothing but think about, talk about how to better communicate, how to get you the message at the right time, and how to set up venues such as this to do it. So I think we had a good team of people that do that and know what they're doing. And some of the things we do, today's town hall, those working group meetings I just referenced, the next one on March 14th. We have turnkey materials that you'll get when you leave, your door prize. There are no t-shirts, no concert tickets, no tickets to tonight's hoop game, sorry. Other communications outreach are on the way. Webinars. We will have things like webinars that we can share information en masse without making you trudge across campus. Glossary, which I think will be huge. Old terms to new terms. If we say this today, what do you mean tomorrow? Potato, potato, it's not that simple. It's chart fields, PeopleSoft, FRS, well, Robert knows the term, sub-account, you name them. They're different, Little video vignettes, which I can't pronounce that word, and website stories. And we even have more stuff. that I think we gives you some links at the end of the presentation. One thing that's really critical, and we consider it part of the change management team's responsibility, but we're all part of it, is training. So you're going to be trained on how to use this new system. You're not going to just be handed the keys to a car you've never run with before. But there's a lot that goes into that. We're early on right now just developing our strategy. We don't have the training materials yet. We don't even have the system built yet. But well before go live, not a week, not 2 weeks, there'll be training opportunities. And the best training opportunities for those of you who are thinking, I don't want to get involved, are to help us test. When you help test, you're essentially seeing the software even before you get training. You have an opportunity to see it, understand how it works, run through some test scripts, and say, oh, I know how to cut a check. I know how I would enter an invoice. So if you get the opportunity, and you're someone who would use the system for real once we go live, I would take that opportunity. And that might help me selfishly, but I think it would give you some benefit. Okay, and then lastly, some websites. You can write them down. I don't know if we put them in the handout, did we? But if not, ConnectCarolina.unc.edu is pretty easy to remember, and so is the finance site. And we do have a bi-weekly general interest email that I'm sure you could find off the ConnectCarolina.unc.edu site. So you have to remember just 2 links there and you're covered. We do Facebook, Twitter. Deborah does, not I. So it will be coherent. So with that, I want to introduce Robert. Robert is here to do the bucket presentation. I don't have a drum roll. I do it. He has done this before, I think one other time at one of our monthly meetings. It's a great presentation of how he shows you what the change is going to be related to chart fields, which is a major change for finance. So I look forward, like everyone else, to seeing the bucket presentation again.
She doesn't want to put her hand in my pocket. Who knows what's in there? Good afternoon. All of our previous speakers have spoken very eloquently about the who, what, when, where, and why of all the changes that are coming up. I want to focus on the how things are going to change. My feedback in here. With so much change in the air, sometimes it helps to start with where we are, and then we'll move on to where we're going. And so let's start with the FRS and with the implicit structure of the SL and the GL. If I can have my yellow bucket people come up. No, come over here. I don't bite. I don't bite. You guys are doing great. This is a highly trained job. I mean, HR didn't qualify. Everybody didn't qualify. These yellow buckets represent the FRS general ledger, or GL, in FRS. If I had a bucket for every GL that we have, there would be a string of 17,000 yellow buckets going halfway to Durham. Okay. Some of you will say, well, okay, that's interesting. I don't use the general ledger. You're going to have to work with me on the audience participation. When I say someone will say, I want you to repeat what I'm saying, okay? I don't use the general ledgers. I don't use the general ledgers. What difference are they to me? What difference are they to me? I am so glad you asked that question. This is real stuff. This is real. Right, money. Martha's been a bad girl. I'm not going to give her as much as everybody else. I like Vanessa. Make sure she has a lot. I've just put $1 billion into these 3 buckets, these 17,000 buckets actually. 1 billion reasons why you should be concerned about what goes on in the general ledger. The general ledger in FRS is the foundation of our accounting system. You can't have an SL account before you have a general ledger account. Everything's based on them. They are very important. Now, some of you will say, okay, they're very important. What's that got to do with me? I'm so glad you asked that question. Yellow bucket people. Blue bucket people. I get my colors mixed up. That's it. That's it. You guys, again, more highly trained university employees. There you go. Let's just stand nice and close. There you go. These blue buckets represent the FRS SL. You'll notice that they have a label in front of them with lots of interesting things written on them, like the account number, the name, map code, department, purpose, and other things. Each of these blue buckets is tied to just one yellow bucket behind it. And the blue buckets stand in front of the yellow buckets, hiding them. When Mary wants to buy pencils for Professor Jones in chemistry, she looks in her blue bucket, sees if she's got budget, and then she goes out and does an ePro order for pencils. When the pencils come in, a receipt, if you will, is placed in the blue bucket. But you're going to notice something. There's no money in this blue bucket. The pencils were paid for by the yellow bucket that has the cash behind it. All the blue buckets do, that was not in the script. Alrighty. All the blue buckets do is collect similar transactions that have actually occurred on the yellow bucket behind them. Similar meaning that they share exactly the same description on the label. Okay. Gotta think about where I am. Well, you got me confused. Some of you will say, okay, that's very interesting. We have a lot of blue buckets.
We have a lot of blue buckets.
How does that affect me? You guys are now excused. In PeopleSoft, a lot of you want to know, how is this going to change in PeopleSoft? How is it going to change in PeopleSoft? Well, the very first thing that's going to happen when we go into PeopleSoft is there'll be no more blue buckets. They'll be gone. Don't come to me on the day we go live saying that you need to buy some pencils. Where's my blue bucket? They'll be gone, and they're not coming back. And the time to start getting ready for that is now. We are a 200-plus-year-old university. We have tens of thousands of people that work here, study here, teach here, and do research here. And in a year and a half, we're getting ready. This $2.5 billion a year enterprise is going to throw its accounting system out with the trash. And if you're not just a little bit concerned about that, you're not paying attention. And of course, that's why you're here, because you're concerned. What we're left with after we get rid of the blue buckets are these nice yellow buckets, the FRS GL, with all that beautiful money in them. This is your key to understanding how things will transition into PeopleSoft. The yellow buckets in FRS become yellow buckets in PeopleSoft. The FRS GL becomes the PeopleSoft fund. They will act the same, taste the same, look the same, feel the same, work the same, have all the same superpowers. The name will be the same. We'll change the value because we're reorganizing the ranges, but for all practical purposes, they'll be identical. Just as the FRS GL is foundational in FRS, the PeopleSoft fund will be foundational in PeopleSoft. Very good. I can take your buckets now. And this becomes your stepping stone for the future. And you can excuse yourself. Thank you. But some of you will say, But Robert. Without blue buckets, how will we pay for our pencils? In PeopleSoft, the blue bucket in FRS becomes the chart field string. Okay, let's try that again with a little bit better timing. Okay? Not yet. Woo. I'm going to talk to you two people. If you've got a set of binoculars, you can see that there are some similarities between what's written on the front of this blue bucket and what's on the chart field string. Things like chemistry department, map code, things like that. Some of you will say, but Robert, if these things are the same, why did we change and why did we go away from the blue buckets?
Why did we go away from the blue buckets?
I am so glad you asked that question. 3 things. One, the easiest way to think of this, the chart field string, as you can see, is composed of 8 little strings that have been tied together. You build the chart field string with the transaction at hand, using the values that you have available. The easiest way to think of it is the chart field string takes the place of the label on the blue bucket. We're going to put a label on each transaction such that we no longer need the blue bucket and, to categorize the transactions. The second thing is because we put that label on each transaction, the computer finds it really easy to sort through all these different numbers and do the reporting and everything else that we need it to do. The third major difference is these values can be shared between all the PeopleSoft chart fields. In FRS, each blue bucket was tied to just one yellow bucket. But in PeopleSoft, the values can all be shared, especially program and cost code can be shared between the funds. Okay, and now I think we're going to switch our slides. And so that's the fundamental change that we're going to experience in FRS is we're going to shift to the chart field string, which we have up here. This slide I refer to as the perfect slide. There are books written about the 10 most important inventions in history. Okay? Books, inventions that have changed people's lives and altered the course of civilization. Usually the wheel is at the top of those lists, followed by the inclined plane. And I don't even know what an inclined plane is. But this slide is on those lists of important things that have changed people's lives. Some of you will say, but Robert, why is this slide in those books? I'm glad you asked that question. This slide on one piece of paper describes each chart field element. You can see the 8 of them across. It describes how they relate to one another. It describes the questions that each chart field is asking a user. It helps you transition from FRS into PeopleSoft. Basically, this slide explains the new chart field string, and that is why it is in those books. When you leave tonight, you're going to pick up your handout back there. This slide is in that handout. I want you, when you get back to your office, to copy that slide, post it on your bulletin board. I want you to copy it again and put it in your departmental, your break room. I want you to put it on the copier and shrink it and put it in your wallet. I want you to take it home and put a copy under your pillow so you can sleep on it. If you have a significant other, I want you to take another copy, put it underneath their pillow, and when you wake up in the morning, you can discuss chart field strategies with your husband or wife. Time for a pop quiz. Okay, are the blue buckets going away?
Yes.
Does the yellow bucket in FRS become the yellow bucket in PeopleSoft?
Yes.
What is that yellow bucket chart field? The fun. What's the name of this slide? Everybody passes. A++. Obviously, we've got an awful lot of work ahead of us, awful lot of really hard work. And the only way we can get it done is if we all work together. We can do this thing if we work together. On behalf of the project team and all the fine folks at ITS and the consultants, we look forward to working with each and every one of you. You've been a great audience. Thank you very much.
Or if you have any questions, if you've got a big voice like mine, you can just shout them out. Otherwise, you can come to the microphone. Questions? I don't see any. All right, you can pick up your handout in the back. Either one of those doors will have a back there. Do you have any questions?